I think anyway.
Yep.
Welcome in, everybody. This is Necessary Roughness, another episode. This time brought to you by just myself and Nick. We've got
You already know.
Meg and Chris out sick this week, so hoping they get better soon. But for now, we'll do our best uh, to bring you something comparable. We've had this is where depth comes into play. You gotta have a deep roster sometimes, and Kev from the bounce and indie intercept helped um, bridge the technical gap between me and a palatable broadcast for you guys. So
Yeah.
big shout out to him. But first and foremost, Nick, my friend, how you doing tonight?
I'm chilling. I'm home for the week, Thanksgiving. I'm glad to be back. Um, Finally got my Bills background.
There you
But
go.
yeah, having a good week. Excited to do this. Hope Meg and Chris get well. Need
Yeah,
them.
man, we'll have to talk about their team a little bit too.
We are. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jesus.
First and foremost, though, I want to talk a little bit about my team, the
Yep.
Minnesota Vikings, and that loss was a thorough one, we'll say. 40-3 at home to the Dallas Cowboys, and it was sort of, if you didn't watch the game and you just saw the score, it might be even a little more shocking. Um, but if you did watch it, the Vikings kind of rolled over right around halftime. It was kind of towards the end of the half. Usually the time when the Vikings get some points on the board, get some momentum right into halftime, or keep it close. And when it looked like they were going to cut it down from 20-3 to 20-10, that turned right on its head, and the Cowboys ended up getting the ball back, making it 23-3 at half. And obviously the Vikings didn't score again from that point. But
Yep.
um, something specific from that game I wanted to dig into a little bit is I think a lot of the loss kind of rides on Kevin O'Connell and the rest of that staff just not really adjusting when when they needed to. And the easiest example to point to right away, where you kind of saw a little bit of early functionality from that Vikings offense, to where you didn't, was the loss of Christian Darrisaw, left tackle, who's still a little unsung in the league. If you're not a Vikings fan, you might not be quite on the Christian Darrisaw train yet, um, but he's really a lockdown left tackle and a franchise left tackle, and the kind of a key cog for how the Vikings call protections. Really, they're able to leave him on an island and deal with the best pass rusher on the other team, and that allows them to double elsewhere and things like that. But he went down. It was late first or maybe just early second, but pretty early on in the game, and we've got a few um, examples I want to jump to, and we're actually going to pull up a couple of clips. And the first one here, Garrett Bradbury inside,
Mm-hmm.
and they're able to get by with a clean pocket and Christian Darrisaw taking care of a marquee pass rusher on the outside. And Michael Parsons had a day, and wrong clip. That's mostly due to early on. They got that field goal early on in the half, and uh,
Do
to
anything.
7-man
Anything.
protection,
Yeah.
and they sent 4, and Kirk couldn't get to the top of his drop, you know? So you kinda saw things turn on their head there, and that was something that was very pivotal, but, um, I think they sorta rolled over after there, and they didn't adjust, they didn't switch up their protections too much, and, I think that was really to a detriment. And it didn't allow them to get back into the game because it was like they were just beating their head against a brick wall and expecting something different to happen. This was a 3 o'clock game, so or 4 o'clock for you as well, but midday game. Did you catch much of it? And what did you kind of notice from an outside perspective?
Yeah, I mean, I was watching the first half, and I was just so surprised that it was going the way it was because, again, Cowboys were favored in this game, and I was so like, after having the week that they had, losing to Green Bay, who couldn't beat anybody, couldn't play,
Mhm,
couldn't play defense, couldn't play offense, and I was like, the Vikings are coming off this incredible win against the Bills, and I really didn't realize it until afterwards that the Vikings were kind of due for a loss like that. I didn't realize. I thought that they were just going to keep on riding their high, but
mhm,
afterwards, when people started saying that, I was like, I could kind of see how this is especially because you got the Thanksgiving game, which is a primetime game, and um, I could kind of see that could have happened. It's kind of like you're due for a loss, after playing so well and the overtime win against the Bills too. Like that took so much out of that team. It must have. I would
mhm,
have taken anything so much out of any team. The one thing that I did see is that Dalvin Cook ran like 6.5 yards per carry. I mean, the problem is when you get down that way, you can't rely on your running back to bring you back into the game. And
mhm,
I think that's the problem with the Colts because they try to do that with Taylor. They go down. They can't rely on a running game to like bring them back because it takes up too much of the clock. That's exactly what happened. They were running the ball well.
mhm,
But I thought that the one thing I will say is that I'm glad that they get this quick turnaround and they get to play right away again. When you lose a
mhm,
game like that, the worst thing is to have to wait. Especially imagine if you had to buy, you have to wait 2 weeks. So to redeem yourself. So to 4 days later, you get to have another primetime game, another opportunity against a not so as good team in New England that you can try to right the ship. So as you said, if a win is a win, is a loss. Yes, I think that this isn't something that's gonna like make them not contenders anymore just because you lose one game by a lot of points to a good NFC opponent. Especially when you've won 7 in a row. So I think this is a learning curve. There's a learning curve to winning in this league. Kirk Cousins hasn't had a season like this. I think maybe ever. So I think that this is a big week for them to kind of recap that, move on from it, and focus their attention in New England.
yeah. Yeah, I think Michigan State might have been 8-2 at one point, 2011, but
Yeah.
no, I'm just kidding.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah.
no, this is not not a caliber of team that Kirk's been a part of to this point.
Right.
Um, maybe 2018 when there was still a lot of that 2017 defense left over, but
Yeah.
no, you're right, and it's difficult to set the tone from behind. First possession was a strip sack that gave Dallas the ball back, and then of course they get the ball back after half from there as well, after kind of sort of having the first possession as well with that early turnover. So difficult to overcome a lot of that. Um, but I think a lot of it does lie on the coaching. Like you said, Dalvin was pretty effective, and they were able when they were able to get to their zone runs, they were able to kind of um, to make some lanes, and Dalvin was taking advantage, but it wasn't within the structure of the game plan, and there just wasn't enough time to establish it that way. So that was tough to see as well when you feel like you could get him going if you maybe started that way. Um, but yeah, it was a tough game, but a fun thing that it leaves us with is the Vikings are 8-2 with a -8 cumulative point differential,
Yeah.
which
Very surprising.
which is a record, so we'll take it. Um, but no, it's tough to deal
Um,
with. At least we get this Thursday game. I am worried about Bill Belichick, but
yeah.
just coming off that game, but I think it'll be something that is going to help them just kind of get right back on track and at least get back out there. So
Yeah, at least to have
next game I want. Go ahead.
a close game, you know?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
you know
we're
what I mean?
used to
Even
that.
if they lose at 28-24, which is very unlikely considering how bad the Patriots offense is, but I'm just saying like something like that can just kind of even if you drop this one, you go to 8-3, still a really good record, and you were in a close game to
Hmm.
lose another. I mean, they can't get blown out by the Patriots.
No.
I'm saying that they can't, as in they won't, and also it couldn't even happen. Like,
Yeah,
but like yeah, they just couldn't. It couldn't happen. So
the offense can't get strangled like the Jets
yeah,
did.
well,
Even if even if they lose close and it's something like 10-7, there
oh,
would be pitchforks in the
that would be pretty
streets.
bad. Yeah.
But
Um,
yeah,
Now
no,
this game
it's
did say a lot about Trayvon Diggs to me. It did.
you know
He did a good job.
he did an okay job, but he didn't need to last very long. And
That's true.
there are, if he was able to get to his breaks, Jefferson was twisting him up pretty good.
Hmm.
Um, but he's not a man corner either.
Yeah.
It's not like he should, even the Trayvon Diggs stands shouldn't be expecting him to go shadow wide receiver ones like a Darrelle Revis or something like that. And
Right.
he's more of a zone, jump the quarterback's eyes kind of corner. But yeah, I think we're past the point of no, actually Trayvon Diggs is terrible because of the yards allowed thing. Like no,
Yeah.
he's a very solid, you know, in the conversation for top 10 corner. Um, but the three catches for 33 yards is a little misleading, I'll
Mhm.
say. But you can't blame him for having help from the front seven. So
Yeah.
no, I thought it was a good showing for him as well. Next game I wanted to get to is the Chargers Chiefs game, and these ones are always interesting, um, and they're always pretty high scoring. They're
Yep.
always pretty electric, and they always come down to the wire. It seems like a lot of second half fireworks, and that's exactly what we saw in this game.
Yeah.
Um, we have a couple of clips of just some fun Herbert and Mahomes throws, which is always kind of the storyline of this matchup. But first, I want to kind of get your thoughts on just the game as a whole and your takeaways for really either team. From whether it's the Chargers kind of resiliency, um, hanging with the Chiefs even through the injuries, or obviously the Chiefs giving us another example of how they're able to close out late. But what were your big takeaways?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, this is how the Chiefs win games. They seem to always go down, and if you give them more than 13 seconds, and even 13 seconds, they can make it happen.
You see that?
Yeah, yeah, so that happened. But if it's anything above like 45 seconds, realistically, I always think that they're gonna just score, and they're just unbelievable. That's why I think on just about everybody's power rankings are number one right now. Um, yeah, the Chargers really impressed me. The only issue is the injuries keep on popping up. Mike Williams is back, and then Mike Williams is gone, and it's like it's ridiculous. And Austin Eckler's playing well, and then they go away from Austin Eckler, and it's like I just don't know what their offensive identity is. And it's while Herbert's a stud, and everybody knows that, it's they seem to be such an offensive explosion, waiting to happen when they have all of their pieces intact. And I hope for them that they will at one point have all of them for a whole season, but it doesn't seem like it can happen. I think that the resurgence and the comeback there of Keenan Allen helped Herbert a lot.
Yeah.
I think that having number 13 out there just gives him more confidence going down the field to Palmer, going down the field to you know Mike Williams when he's healthy. But it's just it's a tough thing with the injuries because they're actually a really good team,
Hmm.
and you can see it. Nobody plays the Chiefs better than the Chargers do, and every game is always close, and they never really seem to get over the hump. And um, I had a lot of hope that they could be a really good team and Herbert could make his first playoff appearance this year, but it's not looking that way just because of all the injuries, especially on the O line. Rashawn Slater, that's a
That's a
tough
huge
one.
one.
That's a huge one. I thought right when that happened earlier in the year, I thought that was like it's over for them, and the defense couldn't hold Mahomes at all, and it's unbelievable to me that he seems to be doing even better without Hill. It's impressive. He's definitely a star.
Yeah. Yeah, we saw them go to I mean, they sort of just rolled with the punches there with Hill leaving, and they're like, okay, well, not as much talent at the skill positions. We saw them go to some 12, 13 personnel looks.
Yeah,
Noah Gray making some big catches as a second tight end out there, and they were effective out of those sets. With similar concepts. There were a lot of times they had one receiver out wide and tight otherwise, or one of them would be Kelsey and he'd split out. But they, like I said, they've really rolled with the punches and just kind of continued to evolve that offense around the best quarterback in the league,
yeah,
and that's all you can really do. And that was, you're finding out that Mahomes was really the straw stirring that drink, and Tyreek Hill was just an espresso shot. It's not like you're any better off without him necessarily. But I think they're kind of right where they were, and if Mahomes doesn't have that cannonball deep threat, he's like, all right, well, I can do everything else as well. And the way he evades pressure is insane. He can, I could get open if Mahomes was running around back there. I'd have 11 seconds on the DB sometimes. So,
yeah.
but diving into some of the tape here, just as we pontificate about Mahomes, Herbert was almost equally excellent the other night, and we just talked about Big Mike Williams. Here are the kind of throws that Justin Herbert doesn't hesitate on. So he sees one high, and it's just cover one hole across the way. So he knows he's got Mike Williams one-on-one against press. He eyes the safety for a second, and he goes, okay, you're not running over there. I'm going to throw this dart back shoulder. And Mike Williams makes an insane grab, but just those type of just mechanical decisions that Herbert makes and the ropes he can throw. I mean, he's not throwing that ball with that kind of confidence to, uh, you know, Joshua Palmer
Yeah,
on the outside. He's not even uncorking that ball. But when he's got his guys back, he is just as dangerous as anybody in the league. And it's pretty impressive that they've been treading water as well as they have, especially with some of the pretty pedestrian play calling that they implement with Herbert at the helm of that offense. Um, Obviously, a hand's been behind their back a little
yep.
bit with the injuries, and you can't call the same protections you'd like to with a Pro Bowl left tackle. But they're doing really well, finding ways to stay in games. They're 500 right now, but still right in the thick of it for the AFC playoff picture. So
It's a tough
uh,
AFC. It's a
it's a
tough
tough AFC.
Now, for me, I mean, this young rook, Isaiah Pacheco, is that his name? I
Yeah.
don't even know how to say his name. Pacheco's a stud. He wearing
Mhm.
Tyreek's number. He kind of looked like Tyreek out there.
I was just gonna say that.
It feels like every time he touches the ball, he just oh my god, he's an explosive demon, and he's a running back that kind of looks like a wide receiver to me. Over
Yep.
100 yards, 7 yards a carry. Sky Moore as well. I think he had 3 catches coming into the game on the year, and he makes 5 for 63 in this game.
Mhm.
Sky Moore, this young running back, it just seems like they keep on bringing in weapons that torch defenses, and it's really impressive. And then of course you got Travis doing his thing. Um, I never would have thought that would have happened. I mean, I had to drop Clyde Edwards-Helaire off my fantasy team because he doesn't get touches anymore.
Mhm.
I was like asking why, and I watched why. Like this kid he's a stud. And I've been really impressed with how well they. It reminds me of the Patriots when they used to lose guys, and then they used to just like pick up guys off the side of the street, and Tom would make them, all pro receivers and tight ends,
Yep.
and it's
Yep.
kind of
Super
happened
Bowl MVPs.
Super Bowl MVPs and Pro Bowl running backs, and it's like who was that? Rex Burkhead has run for 100 yards, and but I feel like that's just what the best teams do, and he's Andy Reid and all these guys and Bieniemy, and it's just it never fails. It's these best teams, they know how to do it and they know how to get things done. They know how to find a way, and that's what the Chiefs did.
Yep. Yep. Top to bottom. And before we get to one from Mahomes that
Don't touch my cup. I saw you being naughty.
back pylon, perfect ball from Herbert.
Yep.
Later on in the but just a perfect throw from Mahomes, set up another score. They had a really cool little tight end screen to Kelsey inside the 10 that worked really well. They just convert. They just get it. They just get it right, and they're so methodical, and they never panic. Is another thing, punch, counter punch, late in the game doesn't matter. They know if they've got enough time, they're going to get there. So that was another fun game to watch. Those games are always going to be marquee as long as those two guys are slinging it. And I'm missing some comments here.
Yeah, that was a good one.
We've got one other game I want to talk about. And speaking of Megan, this segment's going to be called Serious Shade from Nick Sirianni in a squeak by of a win against the just I don't even know what to call the Colts right now, but
Yeah.
It's when you come into a game like that 8-1, a coach in his second career game coaching, a second time play caller on the offensive side for the Colts. That was offset just a little bit by the veteran savvy of Matt Ryan helping to kind of to turn the gears of that offense. But that's a game that you expect a team like Philly to win a lot more handily.
Yeah.
Especially with their advantage in the you'd think anyway in the trenches. Sue and Joseph played well, but it was really the offense that was stagnant for Philly. Seemed like the staff didn't trust Jalen Hurts to sling it. There were a lot of third downs where they're just kind of running their zone read action, or they're running running up the middle or something like that, and it's just, or they're running a screen, and third and long they're running screens, and it's like, hey man, I've seen Jalen Hurts hit some medium to deep windows with AJ Brown and Devontae Smith,
Yeah.
and you gotta let your quarterback do that kind of thing. You've got to let him cook, for lack of a better phrase. And I think that sort of led to the offense being so stagnant. I mean, obviously they got enough points. But I don't know how much of this game you caught, but what did you see from the Philly offense, and alternatively from Indianapolis keeping it close?
I mean, as you said, like just not trusting him in big spots to make throws down the field. And it seemed that since the Washington game, which was obviously only last week, AJ Brown's kind of been bottled up in a way. Not really going for 90 to 110. Only 5 catches for 60 yards in the last game.
Mm-hmm.
And Devontae only had 6 for 78. Not an explosive running passing attack in the last 2 games per se. Obviously still a good running game. Miles wasn't awesome, but Jalen was with his legs. as you said, I would have thought that they would have won the battle in the trenches a lot more than they did. But I
Yeah.
do think that Jeff Saturday somehow has this magic pixie dust about this team right now that they seem to be gritty. It seems to be like that they are playing for him for whatever reason, like kind of like the Lions play for Dan Campbell, kind of like we're that gritty. Like this guy came in and he's ready to like turn this ship around for whatever reason, you know. But they seem to like they were not responding to Frank Reich. They just weren't. And this Colt team I've seen over the last 2 weeks they've played a different brand of football than they did before. You know, switching quarterbacks to, you know, Sam Ellinger and all of this stuff. And obviously this video by Nick. I mean, this is just such clown stuff right here from Nick Sirianni. By 1 point against under 500 team, but I don't know what he was doing, but yeah, this is a different Indianapolis team, and if they were playing this way all season, I'm sorry, Meg, I'm sorry, producer Chris, but they might be in that race if they were playing like this all year, and they were just not responding to Frank Reich, and they seem to really be playing for Jeff Saturday. I like the way that they play. The Eagles have not shown to be a 9-1 team. They kind of look like a 5-5, 6-4 type team out there right now over the last 2 weeks. But you know, I do think they turn it around this week in Green Bay. I think that they'll get back to their roots.
Yeah, while we're on the topic, we've seen really since Jordan Davis went down, the Philly defense start to get exposed a little bit, and Jonathan Gannon hasn't been able to call the same things on the back end without a gap eater up front. They've got great pass rushers on the interior, but Hargrave, Milton Williams, these are undersized guys. Over the last week, we saw Ndamukong Suh, Linval Joseph kind of come into the fold, and they made some pretty flashy plays. Actually, they actually met at the quarterback one time in the Indy game for a sack and shared one, and they look relatively fresh. But you know, at the least, I really like it from Howie Roseman, the decisiveness to say, okay, this is a contending team, and I'm not gonna rest on my laurels here and say, well, maybe it'll figure itself out. I'm gonna say, oh, whoa, no, that was a bad game. We couldn't stop the run that game. Oh God, that happened one more time. I'm gonna go sign the 2 best interior defensive linemen on the market still. So at the very least, you got some bodies in place, guys that you know how to stop the run, know how to 2-gap. Definitely Linval a little bit more than Suh.
Mm-hmm.
But I think 30-40% of the snaps, I think those guys are going to really help sort of in a platoon sense to stop the run and almost supplement the performance you get from Jordan Davis. But that's still a really tough loss, and you got to do some different kind of things to scheme around it. Maybe it's a safety a little closer to the box, but you know, I think it's going to help kind of buoy that unit, but I don't think it solves a problem. Jordan Davis is really just like a generational run stopper.
Yes, yeah. And as Ben just said, 5-5 team. I'm not saying they're a 5-5 team.
Maybe 6-4, maybe 6-4.
I'm saying over the last 2 weeks that they were like, if you never watched a football game, you'd think that they kind of played around that record. Obviously, before the last 2 weeks, they played like an undefeated team. They were blowing out teams. They were playing really well. And as I said, they're going to get back to that. This was a gritty win, in my opinion. While it wasn't all that impressive, and Philly's definitely going down in the power rankings with a lot of people, it was a gritty win to go into Indianapolis against. They're kind of a scary team now with the new head coach, and he's got this, you know, run game back where it was last year with Taylor getting a lot of carries, getting a lot of chunk plays. So to come out with a win, you know, a win is a win. It's a good win for them. But I'd like to see them win by at least, you know, a little bit more against teams that aren't contending in the AFC. So,
yeah, and this was the first Philly game I've watched this year where it kind of jumped out at me that at least it looked this way optically that this is a team with a limited quarterback, and that's how they're calling this offense. and that's how they're performing against a middling team.
Right.
And I don't think that's actually the case because Hurts is a little limited, but not to that extent. He's not a guy that you need to put in that game manager role and leave him there.
Yeah.
Especially with the weapons he's got. But he still went for, I think, 16 carries, 86 yards, a $190 through the air, and really willed this team to a win. He's still the most important player on that offense.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think you gotta let him cook a little bit. I get just let him loosen up a little bit with the way that offense is called, and I think the Eagles will be just fine. Moving on to just kind of the rest of the league. Any other notable outcomes? Things you wanted to just touch on a little bit more briefly than these few games we dove deep on?
Yeah, I mean, just seeing the Giants finally kind of sputter. It reminds everybody that they're definitely not a 7-3 caliber team, and they have had some wins that they probably wouldn't have had if they were playing better teams in the first few weeks of the season. There's a reason that they're not that Dallas is favored by 9.5, even though they have the same record. I kind of was waiting for this type of performance from the Giants all year, and it really you get that sense when Saquon doesn't have a great game, and Detroit obviously had a great game plan to stop him. Jones doesn't have that ability to take over the game. He just doesn't. He needs to be the game manager where Saquon has over 100 yards, where he makes a few mediocre or mid to 15 to 20 yard throws when he needs to make them. But other than that, it's mostly the playmaker in the backfield that's carrying the load.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, he had to throw the ball a lot more than Dable and Jones want him to throw the ball. And you saw it. I mean, to throw for well over 300 yards and only put up 18 points is not doing anything. I don't care how many yards you're going to throw for, but if you have a 1-to-2, touchdown to interception ratio, you didn't play a good game. And this was one of those games that the Giants, if they're going to get, if teams are going to do that to them, they're done. I mean, I just don't think that there's much of a chance. Even if they get, that wild card game on the road, if a team can implement what Detroit did, and Dan Campbell and that defensive coordinator and all of them, I think that's the way to beat the Giants this year. And it shows that there's still a receiver away, and there's still a next step from Daniel Jones away from being a true contender. So that definitely jumped out.
Yep, and it's not a team that you're going to be confident in if they're not able to dictate the tempo.
Yeah.
If Daniel Jones has to play out of structure or play from behind, really, that's not where they want to be in a game. And to this point, up until this week of 43 qualified quarterbacks, Daniel Jones had the lowest average depth of target. It was like 5.1. So he's a check down Charlie, and that's part of the scheme as well. There's a lot of screen game, a lot of quick game. That's where they want to live. They don't want to need big chunks. They want to get those on the ground. They want to get those horizontally with yards after catch, things like that. So
right.
Meg has a question here regarding Daniel Jones. So this is the last year of his rookie deal here. It's the fourth year of his rookie deal. Fifth year option would come into play next season.
Right.
I'm going under on the 2 years. I don't think he gets a second contract with the Giants. I think something would have to change pretty dramatically. Unless, I mean, I could see him getting tagged, maybe if they make a little bit of playoff noise and kind of find themselves in that place. He could get a little Cousins-y over in the NFC East, I guess, especially when the rest of the roster seems pretty legit, the defense anyway, and some pieces on the offensive line. But I'm gonna go under on the 2 years.
I'm actually gonna go over. So what I think is that Dable's got the same mindset that he did with Josh, with Daniel Jones. In 2019, Josh was kind of the same as what Jones is now, and he didn't actually. When Josh had John Brown and Cole Beasley in 2019, that's better than what Jones has now. So if they could get him just a couple of decent weapons, next season, the off season, because they owe him that. They really don't have much outside of Barkley, and obviously Kenny, Galladay's been a complete disgrace, and now they've got the big injury to Robinson, and they've got all these guys out. They owe him a few receivers that are either veterans or they are speed guys or they can help the offense. They can make catches. And I think that I don't know if it's going to work out, but Dable's got the same vision for Daniel Jones that he did for Josh Allen. And they traded for Diggs. Maybe the Giants try to trade. Maybe they get Odell. Maybe they try to trade for a star receiver themselves. I think he's going to push that front office hard into trying to make a play for a star receiver to help his young quarterback. I think he's going to try everything he can with this guy. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. He'll probably be at peace with that. But right now, I think that he's going to try. He's going to try to make this work and make him the franchise guy. But
Yeah.
I have a completely different mindset about and overlook about Daniel Jones now than I did before the season started.
Gotcha. Interesting. And and not very little's said actually about the lack of weapons for Daniel Jones compared to what they'll say about Darnold and now Wilson and the New York Jets, or Fields now. I mean, Fields might have better weapons right now than Daniel Jones
He does.
outside of Saquon.
Yeah.
It's comparable anyway. And this has been the case for a couple of years. It's not like he's had healthy weapons on the outside consistently.
No.
In theory, yeah, he's had Sterling Shepard, he's had Darius Slayton, Kenny Galladay, Odell before that, but never really all at once, and never really at full capacity for any of them individually, frankly. So no, I could see it kind of tipping the other way too. Could be some stones unturned with Jones yet here. Next thing we want to get into is power rankings, and this is the first week we've done personal power rankings for you guys. We're going to go with a top 10. So this is mine and Nick's. Now I've seen his, he has not seen mine, and I'll put them up on the screen here now.
Oh wow.
Let's see if this is any better. Oh, nope. Whoa. We'll go right here. Here, how about I'll just scoot over a little bit. So I'm on your side, you're on my side, but let's jump over to you first and just kind of talk me through your list a little bit. If what kind of opinions have changed for you on teams here that you've got in the top 10, and just kind of your thoughts on the rest of the list, and if anything jumps out at you from mine.
So I'm surprised to see the Bills so high on yours, but I think that everyone's got the Chiefs right now at 8-2. They're obviously a better 8-2 than the Eagles are 9-1. So that's why and obviously a better 8-2 than the Vikings are 8-2. So that's why we have them up there at number one.
Mm-hmm.
They've done this, they have the rapport with the league that we know that the Chiefs are that team. I just kind of thought that this win by the Cowboys was so dominant that, as Stephen A says, this list is fluid, right? So they've catapulted so far up with me. I think they were at like 6 before this week. They go up 4 spots just because of how dominant this win was, and they could go back down to 6 if they lose this week. Against the Giants, they absolutely would. Mm-hmm. But it was so dominant that I was so impressed that I had to put them at number 2. And I do think that out of the top 4 NFC teams, they're the only one to me that have legitimate Super Bowl aspirations. So might be a hot take, but whatever. Then I got the Eagles. You can't deny that they are 9-1. They've had a really good season. In the last 2 weeks they've sputtered a bit, but they're still there. Then I got my Bills. I thought we had a really good game last week just because we ran the ball effectively. We got away from the turnovers. We stopped Nick Chubb. He had 19 rushing yards, which is incredible, and we won the game. And there was a lot of stuff that we had to go through to get to the game. So I thought it was a good win. They won by 8 points. They should have won by more than that, but a little late touchdown by Cleveland. It's fine. A lot of people would have Miami over the Bills just because they love that duo of Tyreek and Waddle. I do as well. I mean, I don't love it, but I can see why people would love it. Tua's doing a great job this year. They've got all these defensive guys like with the new addition of Chubb, and done a really good job this year. But I want to see them win. When it gets a little colder, when it gets a little more in that November, December. I want to see them win in Buffalo. If they did that, they'd be undoubtedly one of my favorites to win the Super Bowl. But right now, I think I had them at 5 right now is fair. 49ers and Vikings, pretty close. I think the Niners win really impressed me. Obviously, they blew out a team. Vikings got blown out. And then you got the Ravens, Titans, and Bengals. You could have any of these teams at any, in any order. The Ravens I think they have the best quarterback. And then I think the Titans they're a little more grittier. And then you got the Bengals. I think I'd have the Bengals higher up on this list if Chase was playing and Joe and him had like a great connection. Just because I haven't seen that in a few weeks. When he comes back, they're going to have to kind of reestablish that. That's the only reason I have the Bengals lower than the Titans. Otherwise, I'd have that switched. But they play each other this week, so that'll be a big telltale sign. So that's my top 10. I think I got the teams right, but I'm sure people have the list differently in a different order.
Yeah. I kind of can't. I thought there were really like 12 teams maybe that I even kind of considered to shuffle at all throughout this top 10. Like the top end of the league is sort of clear cut now. You've got your clear playoff teams in either conference really. And I think the way you view those teams right now can be pretty fluid. Mine is sort of in the context of, late season, how I feel these teams could last into the playoffs and deep into the playoffs. So I've got Chiefs 1 as well. You and I just have Bills and Cowboys flipped. I just like the ceiling of the Bills. I think those pass rushes are very comparable. Getting obviously Micah Hyde won't come back this year, but getting the secondary fully healthy. Otherwise, I think that's a superior unit to what Dallas deploys. Bills have the better quarterback. They've got the better weapons. I just like them a little bit more. The Eagles are just so strong in the trenches on either side of the ball that I would have a hard time picking against them late in the season, barring any big injuries in those areas. Cowboys definitely looking legit. Dan Quinn is one of the best defensive coordinators in football right now, and he's got some absolute chess pieces on that defense that are really versatile. Obviously, Parsons, Jaron Curse is somebody that he can move around. He can neutralize some tight ends with and things like that. Obviously, Diggs, and that unit is just so effective. They play these light boxes. DeMarcus Lawrence, Dorrance Armstrong, Odigizua, all sub 300 pounds, and they're just fast. And it's an interesting way to play on defense, and it's an interesting way it's called. Dak is back. He looks great. I just don't think, at least right now, I don't think they have like the high-end weapons of those teams above them. Tony Pollard obviously looked insane the other day as well, but I think the skill position players and the weapons for the quarterbacks above the Cowboys are a little superior. Niners I like a lot, especially late in the year. Again, very, very well coached defense. DeMeco Ryans is in that same echelon. Playmakers on that side are crazy. Jimmy G is getting into a groove now finally, and the Shanahan offense is beautiful. It's working really well. Both sides of the ball are kind of coming around for the 49ers. Absolutely shellacked the Cardinals.
Mhm.
I've got my Vikings next. Had to drop them pretty significantly, but I don't think, at least in that locker room, I think they could have lost 20-3 or 40-3, and I don't think they feel too much differently about it. Nick Mullins played the whole fourth quarter. Obviously a tough loss, but um, tough to fixate on too much. I've got the Ravens next. I got them above the Dolphins. That's one of our bigger discrepancies is Dolphins. Yeah, I'm a little lower on them late in the year against these, just a little grittier teams, I feel, anyway. I feel like there's just a little fragility to the way the Dolphins offense runs too. I don't know if it's just in my head because they're like a finesse group because it's all speed guys. But I just feel like there's some fragility to that offense and without the real big explosive plays, or if they're against really the best secondaries and teams that are getting pressure late in the year, I think they could be a little exploitable. I've got Titans next. That's one of the better defenses as well. It's a defense I get really excited about. They just, again, they really grind things out. They're always going to be in the game, it feels like. So that's why they're 7-3 all of a sudden, just a sneaky 7-3 because they're a little boring. But a team that's even more boring is the Patriots, and that's what I've got number 10. The Patriots, it was 3-3 with 10 seconds to go against the Jets, and Marcus Jones housed an 84-yard punt. Bill Belichick is an absolute mastermind, especially going against younger quarterbacks. So I think they're going to be around, and I think they may have kind of turned it on. He's getting the absolute most out of his defensive players, like usual, and so yeah, and I'm a little lower on the Bengals right now, but I think similar to how you said, like I just haven't seen it in a couple weeks,
Right.
really, from them. And they could definitely turn it back on. James is 100% correct in the comments.
No doubt, no doubt.
Yeah, let's have him stay there. I don't think he'll really even vie for another promotion or another HC gig.
Yeah.
I think he's kind of found his niche.
Yes. Some people are coordinators, some people are head coaches. And
Yep.
He's a great coordinator.
Yep. He's kind of Leslie Frazier, kind of that Leslie Frazier spot.
Right. To go off the Marcus Jones, I mean, Deshaun Jackson vibes.
Yeah, man.
Right? I mean, unbelievable. The only thing you can't do is let that happen. But, oh, my God. To have it happen to the Jets after Zach played that badly, I was smiling.
They averaged inches per play in the second half.
Yeah.
It was like
we both, if I played the first half and you played the second half, we could have done better than what Zach Wilson did.
Yeah, keep us both fresh. Only a half. Yeah, I think we'd be fine.
He went negative 21 yards in the second half. Oh my gosh. The Dolphins, don't they kind of seem like a white collar team? They're kind of like white collar. Like they got
exactly.
the certain like we're faster than you, we'll run past you, we have more money than you, but then
they're getting hot lunch.
Like 49ers.
Exactly.
Yeah, we're hot. Yeah. And we got teams like the 49ers, Eagles, Bills, Cowboys who are gonna kill you. Like we're not coming to run past you. We're coming to meet you head on. And I think that's when they lose these type of late season games. And then when they go into the postseason, we're going to have a lot more doubts about Miami just because they've been beat. I don't think they're going like 13-4. And that's why, that's the only reason I don't have them, in that top 4 like a lot of people do. And I kind of respect that. You got, teams like the Ravens who are also one of these smash mouth teams that are they're coming for you, not just to, flash you and run past you for 75-yard touchdowns. So, in the postseason, late in the year in January and late in the year in the postseason, you kind of get exposed for being not, gritty enough and not wanting it more. And I kind of see that happening with Miami. That's so.
Yep. And they've still got to go to Buffalo, and they've still got to go to Foxborough this year, and those are to be December games. So I could see them sputtering towards the end of the season. And yeah, I just don't like them as much late in the year compared to the teams they'll probably run into. So yeah, I think we're just a little bit lower on them, and
Yep.
these will be fun to kind of come back to, as well as the rest of the season kind of continues to evolve. So last thing we are going to run through is a rapid fire pick 'em. We've just got about 5 minutes here as we've got the bounce coming on right after us. So I will just pull up the graphic here and we'll just go about as quick as we can. If I can hide, there we are. So I'll just rattle off these games and we will come back to it to add to the standings when we've got Meg back as well. This might be a one-off, just so when we're comparing at the end of the year, we don't have an extra 14 games on her or whatever it'll be. But
True.
yeah, so we'll go. Let's start with the Thanksgiving games. We've got Buffalo, Detroit in the morning
Yeah.
in Detroit.
I got a lot of people telling me that we're about to get like shellacked for some reason because they have like a really good like offensive line, but the Giants got beat because they don't have an offense to compete. So that's I'm not really afraid of that. We do so. While I don't think we're covering that 9.5, this is a pick 'em. I'm taking my team. Going with the Bills.
Yep. Yeah, I think Bills too. That I don't trust the Lions defense, especially against a unit like that. Giants, Cowboys, midday in Dallas.
It'll be closer than people think, but I definitely have Dallas. They always seem to like lay an egg on these big Thanksgiving games, but even if they do, the Giants are so beat up that the Cowboys will probably still be able to pull it out.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Cowboys as well. I think this is kind of where we start to see the wheels fall off a little bit, and a better team's gonna want it just as much. Both 7-3. So next game we've got the Vikings and the Patriots.
Yeah. So I guess we're going with 3 favorites. I'm going with the Vikings.
Yep.
I think they're gonna bounce back. I think this is a bounce back game.
Yep, I gotta go with the Vikings on a get back game here. It's probably gonna be extremely ugly, just the way
I hope not.
Belichick's gonna coach it. I think he's gonna make us work for it, but I think it's a get right game. It's just the Vikings are just more talented, so hopefully that is enough. Then we've got Denver at Carolina. Denver just lost the I don't care bowl in overtime against the Raiders, so they are absolutely reeling at 3-7. Who you got there?
What a great game. I saw that Darnold starting,
Okay.
which gives me less confidence. So I'm gonna go with Denver.
Yeah.
I guess.
Right. I guess. Yeah. Ravens just held Carolina to 3 last week. Denver, I still like the Denver defense, so I'm gonna go Denver as well. But don't watch it. Anyone
Don't
who's
watch the
considering,
game.
yeah,
No.
don't watch the game. Tampa Bay at Cleveland.
That's a weird game. It's
Yeah,
a
it
weird
is.
game. I don't know if I've ever seen Tom play in Cleveland. It feels like I've never seen him play there, but it just doesn't. I don't know why. He used to be an AFC quarterback, but yeah. I mean, I think he's undefeated. He's undefeated since breaking it off with Giselle. So I'm gonna continue this thing he's got going. 7-5. They're going to 7-5.
Yep, we'll give them that one. I like the Bucks too. I just feel like they're gonna keep rolling. I feel like it's sorted out. I don't think they're gonna lose to. I don't think they're gonna lose to a worse team. The rest
Yeah.
of the
Also,
year.
it feels
You
like
know
the
what I mean?
Browns are done.
Yeah.
That's it.
Oh yeah, and it'll be. I mean, Watson's first game back.
No, he's playing. No, his first game's in Houston next week.
Oh, you're right. It's 11
Yeah,
games. 11 weeks.
yeah.
Yep.
So,
Yeah. Last game without Watson.
yeah.
If they get to 3-8, it's probably the ship's probably sank anyway. Exactly. Yeah, I'll go Tampa. Baltimore at Jacksonville.
That's an easy one, Baltimore, especially without having to pick the spread. That's an easy one.
Yeah, I think Baltimore figured it out as well. I think they're going to continue to roll. Houston at Miami. I think I've got Miami as well. That seems like a pretty easy pretty easy one. It'd be a tough one for them to give up.
Oh my gosh, especially after Lovie Smith said. He was fighting for reporters. He doesn't know who the quarterback is. He doesn't know what he's doing. I got Miami.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's probably game set match. Jets hosting the Bears. I'm actually gonna go Bears here.
Okay.
Getting ripped with a bag that doesn't.
I don't even know who's quarterbacking for both teams. I know that Fields is, got the shoulder, and I know that the Jets don't trust Zach. So this might be a Zach plays the first quarter and then gets benched game. And just because of that possibility, and I kind of see it happening now, kind of see the Bears winning this one. And it's going to be low scoring, ugly, and don't watch that one.
Yeah. Joe Flacco still has more touchdowns than Zach Wilson on the year.
Yeah. They should have put him in the last game just to win the game, because I think that he would have done a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
They could have won it, I don't know.
Yeah, I think he would have been a better closer for sure.
Right.
Giving him a shot anyway. Yeah, I'm gonna go Cincy at Tennessee now. This will be a fun one. Playoff rematch.
Yeah, free match. Yeah. Good defense with Tennessee. 37 points put on Pittsburgh last week by Cincinnati. I think they're gonna ride it. So I'm gonna go with Cincinnati, but it's a tough game to pick.
It is. I'm gonna go Tennessee. I think I think they're just gonna keep surprising people a little bit. It shouldn't be surprising, but it still is, just because people kind of overlook. They're just not a flashy team. But I think they get one at home here. A couple of wild card contenders in the NFC still: 5-6 Atlanta at 6-5 Washington.
Yeah, I'm taking Washington to win it, but not to cover this. I think it's 4. I think it's going to be a field goal game. I think Washington has that though.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like Atlanta in this one. I think it's gonna stay a mess, kind of at that 7-8 seed in the NFC for a while here, and they both get to 6-6.
I mean, they've won 5 out of 6. Maybe they're due for a bad one. So
yeah,
no one. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Chargers at Arizona. I like the Chargers here. I don't like what I'm seeing from the Cardinals. Obviously, 38-10 at San Fran was rough, but I think they're pretty well out of it.
Yeah, they just proved that they can get blown out, and I think that shows a lot about a team. So I got the Chargers. I think the Arizona's dead in the water now.
Yep. Speaking of dead in the water, we've got Vegas at Seattle. I think this is a get right game for Seattle, and Vegas continues to sputter. And the thing about them is, so there have been 8 games this season where basically the variability on defense has been this low, where 90% of defensive play calls have been the same coverage. 6 of those games have been Raiders defenses calling cover 3. They called cover 3 90% of snaps against the Colts. Gus Bradley's gone, but they don't care, dude. They're running cover 3, and whatever you do, that's what they're gonna do. So I think Geno cuts them up.
Yep. Absolutely. I'm gonna follow you and go with the Seahawks, especially because it's at home. Raiders are horrible on the road usually.
Yep, go 12. Would have been a fun game a couple years ago. It was a highest scoring Monday night game of all time, if I'm not mistaken. Rams at KC. Rams are 3-7. Hangover.
They got injured. They lost their quarterback. They lost their receiver. Kansas City's gonna roll.
Yep, they don't play down to their competition. I got KC as well. San Francisco at home against the Andy Dalton-led Saints.
That was when San Francisco was in the Super Bowl. That was one of the best games of the year. I don't know if you remember that one, but it was in the dome. Saints 49ers was such an awesome game. But obviously with Andy Dalton, and they barely squeak out a win against the Rams. They play horribly on the road. I'm gonna go with the 49ers. They're rolling now.
Yeah, definitely. I like the Niners as well. I think they'll hold the Saints to just too few points. I don't know that they put too many up on them necessarily. I don't think it's like a Cardinals game, but I think it's a pretty something like a 20-10 win. Green Bay at Philly.
Yeah. Sunday night.
Right?
Sunday night. Eagles wearing all black. I like it. I think that they got to get rejuvenated here. I mean, AJ's got to get back into this offense because he just hasn't been as involved as I'd like to see him in the last 2 weeks.
Mhm.
I think this is a game like the Bills Sunday night game with the Packers, where like they're gonna try to like make it closer than it would be. And while it's not a blowout, the Packers won't have a chance to win it. So Eagles got this. Get back.
Yeah, I think the Packers come to play.
Yeah.
And they fight hard, but I'm going to go with the Eagles as well. I could see it being similar, kind of a similar track to that Bills game as well.
Right.
The Monday nighter, a scintillating game between the 3-7 Steelers and the 4-6-1 Jeff Saturday led Indianapolis Colts.
I got the Colts. I got they're gritty now. They're playing for their head coach. The Steelers aren't really in this anymore, and they don't really play as well as they at home road, as similar to the Saints. And I think that over the last 2 weeks they've shown a lot. They've shown a close game against the number 1 seed in the NFC, and they beat they beat the Raiders in the first game. So I got the Colts in this one. I think they're gonna do a number on this Pittsburgh offense.
Yeah, I could see it going either way, but I'm going to say the Steelers play for their coach in this one and get a win, get to 4-7. Maybe they even maybe they get close to sniffing 500 again and just go like 8-9 or something and keep the Tomlin thing going. I don't know. I just have a hard time seeing this team with like a top 10 pick. I don't know why. They just always fight so hard, and they're always close one way or the other. So I think this is a game that Mike Tomlin really wants to win as well. And I think both teams smell blood in the water, so I think it'll be a fun one. Both teams really want to win. If either team loses, they're sort of just out.
Yeah.
Which is fun. So no, I think it'll be a fun one, but I'm going to go Steelers. You're going Colts. And that is the last one we've got. So this was an interesting show for sure. I think we'll have the whole gang back together next week. But thanks for joining us, everyone who watched and listened. Thanks for commenting and generating some conversation. And again, this is Necessary Roughness. I'm John, joined by Nick. You'll see us back next week. We're brought to you by Stadium Rant. Have a good rest of your night, everybody. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.